Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the next episode of the Brio In The Box podcast. What's new today?
It's winter.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah. We've officially reached that point where we all start to wonder why we live in Saskatoon. It's cold.
It's cold here.
It snowed a foot and then a few days off and then another foot or something.
Yeah. So nature has provided us a large number of hours of physical activity.
Yes. We are officially in the testing your fitness part of your life.
Just to leave your house.
Just to leave your house. Like, we have a snowblower. So even with the snowblower, I spent over an hour dealing with the snow in our driveway and walkway. And that was some snow blowing and a whole lot of actual shoveling as well. And it makes you realize that in your day-to-day life, there's a lot of physical activity that's just going to be pushed upon you. And it gets you wondering, like, how prepared am I for this? I was able to do all the shoveling and everything, and I was totally fine. But you see all these stories of these people who are not so fine. Mm-hmm. I saw one article about 3 hunters, not all together, that would make it extra bad, but 3 hunters down in Michigan that all died of a heart attack out hunting just from hauling the animal they had shot. So they're out hunting and trying to find real food and doing it hunter-gatherer style. But then you get your animal and you start to carry it back and then you die of a heart attack. What a terrible waste. What a terrible tragedy, you know?
So this was 3 separate men in a 48-hour period in Michigan during hunting season this fall. And you sent me the article being like, look at this. And I think it was quotes from a doctor involved in the emergency response to these tragedies saying, I've never seen anything like this in such a short period of time, basically one weekend. And they had 3 men die of heart attacks. And they were all different ages too, right?
57, 65, 83. 83, good for you to be out there hunting still at 83. That's awesome.
Kudos to that guy.
Totally. But 57, 65, that's still, you should be capable and you should be able to do those types of things. Mm-hmm. And the doctor basically said, we need people to be eating better and we need people to be doing more activity if they're going to go out into nature and try to do these types of activities. Mm-hmm. He's like, as soon as it's hunting season, people pick up a gun and a coat and head out into the woods. No prep work, no forward thinking, just, I'm going to go shoot an animal. It's like, okay, but then what?
Just assuming they have the physical capability to keep up with the fun part of their life. I'm assuming these guys want to go on their hunting trip with their buddies and that they're out there to have fun and then don't really think through or don't realize that they don't have the capability to participate in life in that way, in the way that they want to, where a certain amount of physical activity of walking and carrying all of a sudden becomes a life-threatening amount of physical activity.
Yeah.
And we see the same thing every year with, the big snowfalls and all the emergency doctors and nurses in the Brio community are always like, oh yeah, here we go. Heart attack, heart attack, heart attack. And I think we talked about this last year around the same time of, you bring that topic up in the gym and almost everybody is like, yeah, my neighbor, my brother-in-law, I know somebody that died shoveling their driveway. And so you think there are seemingly basic tasks of life, like you just want to shovel your driveway so you can drive. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden that amount of shoveling becomes, again, a life-threatening amount of physical activity.
Yeah.
And people just don't conceptualize that they don't have the fitness for those basic things that you want to be able to do in life.
Yeah. Even when it does snow a whole bunch and we're just walking dash to school, like just walking in deep snow is really hard and gets you out of breath. So having to move around through the deep snow and carry stuff or push snow, it's pretty functional. It's stuff we should all be able to do. But if you're not prepping for it year round, then you're going to be in trouble. Mm-hmm.
In the level 1, we talk about how life will demand that you perform functional movements. And if you don't regularly practice them, you will fail at the margins of your experience. And failure can mean, well, you just can't complete the task, or all the way up to you might die doing that thing when you hadn't considered that a hunting trip with your buddies became a life-threatening amount of physical activity, or just shoveling your driveway because it snowed becomes a life-threatening amount of physical activity.
Yeah, we've talked in previous podcasts about, leaning out and losing weight and all that kind of stuff is so heavily biased towards nutrition. But this is the stuff that exercise takes care of. If you're not doing physical labor, if you're not doing manual stuff, moving things around, getting your body going, at times of tests like this, you're going to fail. This is where the exercise comes in. All
of a sudden, you can't do those things. And people seem willing to give away small pieces of their functional independence, little bits at a time. Mm-hmm. Someone in the gym was talking about a friend of theirs that does an elaborate amount of Christmas decorating and is getting up there in his years, but I think 50s, maybe 60s. Like I'm going to call that not old. And hired a young guy, a kid, to get all the bins down off the shelves for him this year.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there isn't a point where you go, maybe I should still have the ability to do that, but you just outsource it and you go, oh, it's fine. Or, the number of people that stop wearing shoes that require them to bend over and be able to tie their shoes. They start wearing slip-ons all the time, and they just become okay with giving away little bits of things. Like, I'll make this easier, and I'll make this easier, and I'll make this easier. And then all of a sudden you choose the easier path, and you're at a point where now you can't. Now you have loss of functional independence, or maybe just loss of life.
Yeah.
The level 1, we call it loss of game, mission, or life, when you're faced with these tasks that you're not prepared for, just through pure lack of practicing them.
And I think sometimes people get to a certain point where they look back and they're like, I used to be able to do this. And it's kind of a bigger thing that they all of a sudden just realize they can't do anymore. And that's a fairly defeating place to be. But if you give up those little things along the way, you're way more likely to have those large things failing on you down the road. As soon as the small things start showing up, you need to be addressing those things. If you can't touch your toes anymore, that's a big thing. That should have been eliminated way earlier than getting to the point where you can't even put your own shoes on.
You and I have been mulling this over a lot. There's a set of physical capabilities that I want to have all the way until I die. And so I need a certain amount of fitness in my fitness savings account to last, because I don't want to be at $0 in the fitness health bank account or run into the negative. So if I can't bend over or sit on the floor to put on my own shoes, if I can't go up and down stairs, if I can't squat up and down off the toilet or out of a chair, or walk comfortably on my own, or et cetera, those kinds of things that just basic life functional tasks, I don't really want to be alive anymore at that point. I don't want those last 10 years of life, if they're spent in decrepitude and dependence on others and isolation and misery and pain and all that kind of stuff. Those aren't years that I'm keen to have. So my life goals aren't just, I want to live to be whatever. It's, I want to live well until I die. Whatever years I get, I want them to be full and independent and functional. So to me, if you're in your 60s and you've given up sitting on the ground to tie your own shoes, but what if you live to 95? Do you want to spend 30 years without the ability to put on your own shoes? To me, that's a no-go. To me, that would be a massive red flag. But to many people, I don't know, they're just not thinking about it, or not planning ahead, or not considering what they want their future to look like. And then many people don't seem to have, I don't know what, the awareness, or maybe you'd call it self-efficacy, to realize that better could be for them.
Right.
That they could change their current state and their future state just with some effort right now.
Yeah. It's the forward thinking. Hopefully we all plan for retirement by putting money away, and you've got to plan for your physical capabilities by putting work in now. You can't wait until, I have a hard time going up the stairs all of a sudden. It's like, no, you avoid that altogether by doing the work now. You make sure your legs are strong. You make sure you're capable. You make sure you're exercising all the time to prevent those things from happening.
What's the phrase? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? If you can just get out ahead of it before you're in pain, before you have loss of functional capacity, before you need a knee replacement, you can make change. Absolutely. I'm 100% optimistic that at any point in your life, you can put in some effort and make things better for yourself, but it's so much harder the longer you leave it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always time. You can always make it better than it currently is. But like you said, the earlier, the better. Don't wait for the bad stuff. Yeah. I think that no matter what, at some point you're going to start to decline.
Of course.
But be the 83-year-old that's like having issues hauling a deer. Don't be the 57-year-old that's having issues hauling a deer.
Yeah, exactly. Heart disease is still the number one killer. It's the most common chronic disease. Chronic diseases could be called optional diseases, or they call them lifestyle diseases, in the sense that you can opt in or out of them based on your lifestyle choices. So like you said, nutrition, exercise is huge. Smoking and drinking, sleep, all those kinds of things, your just general level of physical activity, your stress, your social connections, all those things, the choices you make in all these aspects of life are opting in or opting out of chronic disease as a future problem that you have to deal with, or a future cause of death.
And just to clarify, for those of us that were only half paying attention, smoking and drinking is bad. That doesn't mean you're supposed to smoke and drink to pursue your health. That's bad.
These are all lifestyle factors like nutrition, good or bad.
Like, wait a minute. I heard her say something about we should be drinking and smoking.
Those are choices: to drink or not, to smoke or not, to sleep or not, to eat well or not, opting in or opting out of all kinds of these choices. So speaking of consistency, let's talk about the most consistent human being on planet Earth.
Yeah. We had our first official 3,000 WOD member. And it was actually Coach Jess.
Jessica Stewart, what's up?
3,000. That's bananas.
The first CrossFit BRIO member to make it for 3,000 workout of the day classes.
Yeah.
Hell frickin' yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Jess joined in May of 2013, so it's been 11 and a half years, and I punched the math into my calculator. It works out to almost precisely 5 days a week for 11 and a half years straight.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's amazing. So in amongst work and kids and vacations and all those other things, she's managed to make fitness a priority for herself and now also her family, because both her kids now come to the gym and come and work out with her. So she's influenced her own health, her future. She and her husband work out together. Now their kids work out together. She's one of the best advocates we have with like her coworkers and her friends and as many people in her sphere of influence as possible to be a fitness ambassador to the world of all the people that she knows. So like really freaking amazing.
Yeah, that's super awesome. We have a handful of people at 2,500 now.
Yep.
Bunch of people at 2,000. And then what do we have on the wall altogether? Something like 72 people that are 1,000 and up.
Yeah. So we just finally got the WOD Club wall update all done the other day. Had a problem with updating the wall in that we ran out of space. There are so many people at CrossFit BRIO that have done more than 1,000 workouts with us. And that's classes. That's workout of the day classes that they have come to and checked into. Yeah. It doesn't even include all the other workouts that happen. Let's say the gym and on vacation and all that stuff, but just come into classes, 72 names on the wall. And so we went to update a couple months ago and went, oh no, good problem to have, but we're out of space.
Yeah.
So I had to redo all the graphic design and reorder all the banners and stuff. So we finally got them in and got them all up yesterday. So now, yes, there are 72 names on the wall that have done more than 1,000. Truly amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
If you're a person out there that struggles with consistency of your workout routine, right? They say you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Why not come surround yourself with those 72 people that have figured out how to make fitness a lifestyle and a habit for the long term?
Yeah. Home of the committed.
Home of the committed.
Yeah. Good job, Jess.
Which I also like to think has a little bit of double entendre as a, committed into the insane asylum kind of thing. It's like, we're all a little bit crazy,
Well, for sure.
Home of the committed. Committedly insane.
I've had many people ask if there's something wrong with me when they're doing some of the workouts I've come up with. Be like, are you okay? Like, what's going on in your head right now? Like, I'm just trying to make you guys the best you can be.
Yes. So also on the topic of consistency and health and fitness as a lifestyle, we've just had a great week. We're wrapping up our fall strength cycle. So our testing week of back squat, press, bench press, deadlift, all the fun things. And people get to see the results of their progress. And there's been lots of great light bulb moments for people this week.
In the fall, once we're done with our summer shenanigans, I like to do a really structured strength program. This one was 12 weeks, like you said, so pretty good one. And we had a ton of people that really tried to dig in and come in for the whole thing. A lot of people did very well. And now it's paying off because we've had so many people PRing their back squats, PRing their press. It's just such a great feeling of if I can just show up and put the work in consistently, I'm going to get better. So we had a whole bunch of people that added like 30 to 50 pounds to their squat and PR'd their press that they haven't done in 7 years or whatever. And we started talking with everybody and be like, okay, so what was it? What do you think it was? And the number one answer was like, well, I was just coming in. And that's it. That's the big thing, is that you have to come in consistently. You have to be the one that's working towards getting up on that wall to get on the 1,000 WOD club. Like, you just have to be consistently doing it. The charter for safety with CrossFit is mechanics, consistency, and then intensity. And that whole middle thing is once you've learned how to move well, you have to come in consistently. You have to move consistently. You have to do this all the time. And those of us that have been doing it, it's been paying off, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. At the start of this in September, we made a big push to be like, you have to track what you're doing, to the point that I got upset at people to be like,
mom's upset.
Mom's mad that we put in all this work and I see how much work and care and dedication you put into designing a good program. And people are just going to show up with, well, what did you squat last week? And they're going to go, I don't know, like unacceptable. To the point that I was like, you're downloading this app, you're getting beyond the whiteboard and you're going to bust out your logbook or whatever it is. And you're going to keep track so that this whole thing works if the athlete participates in the thing, right? So yes, you have to show up, but you can't show up and just wing it every time. So that was a big takeaway. Somebody yesterday was like, this is the first time I've ever actually dedicated, tracked my stuff, and it worked. And I was like, I just love it when I'm right.
Yes. Okay. So let's break it down. You're going to do a strength program or any kind of fitness program at all. What's the keys to success? First of all, you have to do it consistently, right? You just have to do it all the time.
You have to show up.
You have to show up.
Be present. Present.
You can't do it once a week and hope to get any better, no matter what you're working on.
Yeah.
Number two, you have to pay attention to see that you are getting better. And you do that by logging things. You write stuff down, you log your entries. So tracking is super important because we need to be able to push the difficulty. If you want to get stronger, you have to try harder. You can't show up every week and then just do the same weights and expect to get much better. So by tracking what you did last week, you know, okay, I need to go heavier than that to make it harder. And if you're doing that week after week, you're doing the linear progression. You're working towards a heavier weight and you're going to get stronger. So you have to be doing it consistently. You have to be logging your results and you have to be trying really hard. Mm-hmm. And then the other side of the variable is what's happening on the back end. You know, if you're eating garbage, you're not fueling your recovery and your performance. If you're not sleeping well, you're not fueling your recovery. You need to be doing the other things. You need to be following the prescription. The CrossFit methodology that we're always talking about is train, move around, eat well, sleep, recover. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. Weird.
Certainly like a high sugar diet, a high sugar intake impairs muscle protein synthesis. It impairs recovery. So you can be showing up and trying hard and tracking your results. But if you go home and live on gummy bears and booster juice and Starbucks Frappuccinos and all that kind of stuff, you won't see results. Or you think you have a very healthy diet, but it completely lacks animal source proteins and you're filling yourself with just carbs and vegetables and fruits and all those kinds of things, which don't increase muscle protein synthesis. So the people that I saw make great progress this year were the ones that I know follow the thing that we're always talking about. You need to eat 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight of animal source protein, whole food source proteins. The people I know that are doing that and cooling it with the sugar and cooling it with ultra processed foods and cooling it with alcohol, those are the people making great progress. The formula seems to work as if by magic, but it's not magic at all. It's actually a very straightforward, laid out set of things that you have to do. And it works 100% of the time when you do the thing.
Yeah. It's easy to get into a mentality, but it's like, well, you know, I'm getting older now and the PRs aren't going to happen anymore. And that's just not true. Like we had one guy who he's been with us for a number of years now, but really diligently showed up and did the work and pushed hard. And on the week before, he posted up a video of himself squatting 315 and said, things I never thought I would be able to do.
Yeah.
Super proud of himself for getting 315. And then on the actual test day, what did he get?
330.
330. Like, what the hell? And that's more than his previous more he's ever done in his whole life. And he's, you know, a middle-aged dad. He's not a young buck who's just starting his lifting journey. This is awesome, you know?
Yeah.
Another one of our members, she's been with us forever. And she PR'd her lifts as well, just because she's been diligently doing it and she's strong as fuck and still got better. Mm-hmm. So all you really need to worry about is showing up, trying hard, being consistent, putting all the pieces into place, and you're going to get better. Mm-hmm. The people that didn't so much need to reassess and be like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym anyways. I might as well try hard. Mm-hmm. I might as well put the work in. I might as well make use of my time while I'm there. It's unfortunate when people are showing up, but then not actually trying hard.
There's an exercise that I love that I've seen it in various different applications, but you ask people like, well, what's important to you? And they'll go, oh, this or that. And then you go, okay, well, open your phone. How many hours have you spent on your phone or scrolling Instagram? Or people go, yeah, healthy eating is important to me. Like, okay, show me your food log. Mm-hmm. They're like, yeah, I think I have a pretty healthy diet. Okay, let's put a glucose monitor on you and see what your glucose looks like. And turns out you have a wildly unhealthy diet. Or you're like, yeah, I think I sleep enough. And we put a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or an Oura Ring on you and you sleep 6 hours a night. Or yeah, I'm pretty active and we put a step counter on you and you walk 5,000 steps a day. Like, what's the Richard Feynman quote? You must not fool yourself and you are the easiest person to fool. Right? Yeah. CrossFit brought empiricism to fitness and health that was completely absent before, that things should be measurable. And if you're struggling with explaining why progress is not going the way that you want, if you legitimately want that progress, well, the formula is well known. Look at your Brio app. How many classes have you come to in the last 3 months? Look at your food tracking app. Put a glucose monitor on, put a step counter on, use a sleep tracker, and just be honest with yourself about which areas of your life need attention and where could you get the most bang for your buck in those things. And you will see the progress. It works. If you sleep well, eat well, show up, try hard, track your results, move around a bunch in the day, you will get fitter.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. And if progress is not the way you want it, it's one of those things.
Yeah,
you just need to figure out which one.
Yeah. So now we're done with our strength cycle and we're leading into the holiday season, which is always a bit harder to program for. So generally what we do at Brio is we try to just have a little bit more fun through the holiday season, because who knows how often you're going to get in with all your travels and family and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So through the holiday season, it's more just do some workouts and have some fun and try to stay with it. So we should probably address what's your best strategy for surviving the holidays and maintaining your fitness.
Yeah. So let's get through December. You know, there's going to be some food that's maybe off the bandwagon, maybe more alcohol than usual. Maybe you're away from the gym, so the consistency of your routine takes a hit, any or all of those things. Plus, it's also cold and flu season where people tend to get sick. Although I don't know if we have a cold and flu season as much as we have a stay indoors and eat candy and pie season. You know, like one of the two. But let's think of those from a few different perspectives. So we want to enjoy life and we want to do the things that are important. Some of those involve meals and feasting and social connections and time with family and friends. So we don't want to take those things out of our life in a way that detracts from overall quality of life. But let's just be strategic. Right. So if there are certain meals or outings or occasions that are important to you and are going to add to the quality and enjoyment of your life, plan for those. And then you know when they're going to happen and the day of. So let's say it's Christmas Day. You know you're going for big turkey dinner and you love all that stuff. Well, let's work backwards from that event. Earlier in that day, it would be good if maybe you did a workout. Christmas Day, we always do the 150 Christmas burpees. This will be year 17 of the Christmas burpees. So no matter what, it takes between 10 and 20 minutes for most people. You can find a body length of floor space and you can get your Christmas burpees done. If you went for a walk or went snowshoeing or something else like that, or maybe you're busy cleaning the house and prepping the meal yourself, so you're just being active on that day, that would be great. So you get your workout in. It would probably make sense to either extend your fasting window through that day or at least stick with just a very light protein and fat meal prior to. So mid-morning, you have 5 eggs. So you got your 30 grams of protein, little bit, keeps the appetite down, but then otherwise you save the bulk of what you're going to eat that day for this big important meal. Afterwards, after dinner, it would be great if you started a culture and a tradition in your family of let's all go for a walk. Mm-hmm. Let's bundle up. It's cold outside. That's fine. Let's go for a walk or go for a snowshoe or go, build a snowman or throw some snowballs at each other or just move around a bit.
Yeah.
Even 10 minutes of walking after a high carbohydrate meal makes a tremendous difference in managing your blood glucose. It just stimulates your muscles to take up the glucose out of your bloodstream and really blunts the damage tremendously. So if you can somehow find a way to go for a walk and then take some other people with you. I know alcohol is part of the thing, and often it's part of a survival strategy of spending time with your family.
Yes.
So, minimize alcohol intake, find the lowest possible point you can get it to. If you can minimize the really sugary drinks or like eggnog, really dense source of calories, enjoy a little bit, but whatever alcohol you choose to consume, try to keep it to a minimum.
Yeah.
Alcohol absolutely blunts your ability to properly manage your blood glucose. It also decreases your ability to regulate your appetite. So you will eat more calories if you're also consuming alcohol at the same time. So it makes it harder to make better choices.
Yeah. Whenever we go to a wedding or something where it's definitely a social drinking event, I'll have a beer or two maybe, and then I'll try to switch to just tequila soda or vodka soda or something. So I'm having alcohol. I'm still doing the thing. It's still fun, but I'm also like minimizing my like sugar intake. I'm not drinking like Crown and Coke or whatever. Not that I ever would. I hate Crown, but when you're also drinking pop with your drinks, then that's just a double whammy.
Yeah. So you do like eggnog. So you kind of have your one eggnog a year where you're like,
Yeah. I have every holiday, not everyone, I guess, but there's a holiday thing that I enjoy that I'll partake on that holiday. I'll do a little bit of Halloween candy on Halloween. That's like the only time of the year I really eat candy. Eggnog at Christmas, I'll buy one thing of eggnog and I'll have it the one day and that's about it. But I think if you like those things, then yeah, sure. Once in a while, do it. It's when it turns into like, well, every day for a week between Christmas and New Year's, I'm drinking eggnog and feasting and doing all the things. That's when it becomes problematic.
I think one of the important things to keep in mind when it comes to the net health negative things, drugs, alcohol, ultra processed foods, high carb, sugar, they're all in the same bucket. When they become harmful is when the space in between the doses or incidents of use gets too short, gets too small.
Right.
If you had 2 drinks a year, you would be hard pressed to find any evidence that that's harmful. 2 drinks a month, also probably you'd be hard pressed to find any evidence that that's harmful. 2 drinks a day, that's definitely harmful.
Right.
So same thing when it comes to sugar and ultra processed foods, those things are all in the same category. So if you had a high carb, high sugar, ultra processed food meal once a year, you'd be hard pressed to find any evidence that's harmful. Once a month, probably not that bad. Once a week, you'd probably still be doing okay. That's like how we live our life, is 1 meal a week. But if you start to have that every day, then it starts to become problematic on your metabolism and your glucose and your mitochondrial health. And if you're doing that multiple times a day, especially, many days in a row, like you said, where, well, we have our Christmas Eve and it's a big dinner, and then we wake up and we have waffles for breakfast, and then we have Christmas dinner, and then we have pie for dessert, and then the next day we make pancakes, and then that's another big meal. And there's candy and treats and cookies and all of the Christmas baking just nonstop for however many days in a row that goes on for. Or even, you have your big Christmas dinner and the next morning you wake up and you have oatmeal for breakfast. Put a glucose monitor on. You can see what that does to your glucose. It's not really substantially different than eating waffles for breakfast, right? So there just needs to be time for your body to reset or recalibrate from the damage.
Yeah.
Glucose, alcohol, drugs, whatever. So if you had a big high carb, high calorie meal the night before, the next day, if your metabolism works, you'll just be less hungry in general, but you might have to put some effort into, again, extending your fasting window after all of those calories that you took in. You just need to give your body time to use them to stay alive. You stored some fat, you got to use it up. Keep carbohydrates to an absolute minimum. Like I said, breakfast should be just eggs. Eat your whole eggs. 5 eggs is 30 grams of protein, steak, chicken, fish, that kind of stuff. So you keep the carbs out of there. Give your body time to reset, bring insulin back down, bring insulin sensitivity up, your cells back up. And then the damage is not so bad kind of thing. If we just need more time in between. So just be aware, what are the times coming up in the next month that are going to be important to you? And then do those things, enjoy those things, find the minimum effective dose you need of those things to feel satisfied and like you enjoyed life. No need to go absolutely full send off the edge of the cliff kind of thing. And then just plan for the space between. Right. Plan what happens in the space between.
Yeah, I think in a normally functioning human body, we have all of these systems to deal with all of these environmental toxins, basically. You can have some junk food once in a while and you're not going to die. We have systems to deal with it and process it. You can drink some alcohol and you're not going to die. It's only when people start to heavily abuse it that the systems get overwhelmed and they can't function properly anymore. And that's why you have an issue. I could probably go for a whole week of drinking. If I went on to Mexico or something like that, I could probably drink heavily for a week and come out of it and be fine because my liver is healthy. But if a hardcore alcoholic has been doing that for 20 years and their liver's not functioning properly anymore, they're starting to die. You're not gonna make it anymore because that system is just overwhelmed and shutting down. So the time in between is huge. And I think that for some people out there, they need to acknowledge that they don't have a normally functioning system anymore. If you're very overweight, you can't handle a whole week of eating whatever you want, whenever you want, just because it's the holidays. It's not that you can't have any of those times, but you just need to be way more careful than somebody that does have a normally functioning system. So like you said, you need to pick and choose, decide which ones are going to be your I'm going to treat myself, I'm going to enjoy it with my family or whatever. And then the other times you have to be strong enough to make a stand for the change you're trying to make in your life. And I think people will do it with alcohol. They'll say to their loved ones, I'm trying to change my habits and I'm not going to drink alcohol tonight. And I need you guys to support me in that. And everybody's always like, that's great. Good for you. And if they're not, that person's a dick. But if we were to say the same thing about cookies or pastries or junk food or whatever, people are often like, oh, it's the holidays. If somebody was to say to you, I'm really trying to get my weight under control, I'm not going to eat pie tonight, I need your support in that. And you're like, no, you should have it. It's Christmas. You're just as much of a dick as somebody saying to an alcoholic, no, you should have a beer. You should do it. It's fun. It's the holidays. Those people are struggling and they need our support.
For sure. There's many strategies you can use to keep the nutritional side of things under control. So you can emerge January 1st without a massive hole to dig yourself out of. Fitness is a lifestyle. So let's not put in a box that we only exercise when we walk through the doors of CrossFit BRIO. If you're away from the routine, fitness continues everywhere. In fact, this week, we had 2 of our members were away for back squat testing day and texted you a video of them still doing the back squats in a hotel gym.
Yeah.
That's what we do here. This is the home of the committed, and we're committed when we're in our walls and also outside of. So we already got a plan for Christmas Day. We're going to do 150 burpees. Everybody just does it. It's part of what we do. Drag other people in there with you, unwitting friends and family. I love when I see that. But we also have tons of support if you're away from the gym for longer or you're sick or whatever happens, you're away at work or traveling, that takes you out of the normal fitness routine. You go to CrossFitBRIO.com/outside-the-box. And there's a whole page of resources of workouts you can do away from the gym. Somebody messaged us this week, and I think their kid had been sick or something, and they were like, I'm not going to be able to make it to the gym this week. Do you have any at-home workout ideas I can do? We're like, actually, yes, we do. We have a whole web page of these things. So there are workouts. There's 2 PDF downloads you can take if you're going to be away from cell phone service. One involves a dumbbell and a skipping rope, and one involves no equipment at all. We collected our 10 favorite COVID lockdown videos that we made of complete workouts that include a warm-up, instructions on what the movements are, the workout itself, scaling options, how to modify at home based on what equipment you have. There's 10 of those, and some of them are pretty freaking funny too, so worth looking at. Last year around this time, CrossFit came out with its own PDF download of at-home workout, Christmas workout ideas. So there is a huge collection of resources there for you. So no excuses not to keep the fitness up just when you're away from the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always something you can do.
Yeah.
And even if it's a little bit more repetitive, even if you're hindered by your space, you can find something to do. And that's why the burpee thing came to be, is we can all do 150 burpees wherever we are in the world.
Yeah.
And we've had people in the past spread those burpees out over the span of about 12 hours or so. Let's remember that is not a workout. That's technically doing it, but you can't call that a workout.
Yeah.
One rep every 5 minutes.
That's general daily activity. Maybe it goes into your step count.
Maybe
your watch picks up on that. It seems you have fallen down. Do you need help to get back up?
You keep falling down.
You keep falling down. Are you okay? Boxing Day, we do Chad.
Yeah.
The 1,000 step-ups for time. So also a workout you can do anywhere. You can find a set of stairs and go, up 1, 2, down 1, 2.
Yeah.
You can throw a backpack on. You can put some water bottles in the backpack, throw some weight on you, and you can chug away with that one anywhere, indoors, outdoors, wherever the holidays may take you. So right there is a couple of good workouts, very easy, very low space requirements that you can keep up the fitness over the holidays no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think this is kind of in line with what you were saying. I had an interesting conversation with a participant at a level 2 last weekend. Along the lines of, okay, so somebody does a diet for a period of time, say the ketogenic diet, which we know is, if everybody could follow a mostly ketogenic diet, we would have no metabolic disease. We wouldn't have a chronic disease epidemic. So we know it works. We know it's the most effective, but it's also kind of difficult to do. And people tend to relapse off of healthy eating plans in general. Say it's keto, call it paleo, call it macro counting. I don't really care. But the things we know that work are difficult to do consistently for some people. And there are times of relapse off the wagon. Fitness is the same. We know that CrossFit is the most effective way to work on your fitness for the lifetime. And if somebody is doing CrossFit and is in the best shape of their life and then falls off the wagon and stops going to CrossFit and gets in worse shape, everybody agrees, man, you just got to get back on the wagon and you just got to get back in there and you got to get consistently and just get back in the gym. Get back to doing that thing that was clearly working for you when it was working for you. But there's this weird mentality that people have about a diet that if it's hard and you fall off the wagon, people get real shitty about like that. You have to do something that works for you. You have to be able to do it consistently. And if you did it and then you'd stop doing it and you gained all the weight back, like clearly that's a bad diet plan. Is it though? Yeah. I don't agree, because I don't think we should move the goalposts on what is the most effective, best thing for someone to do just because it's hard.
Yeah.
Just because it's hard to do. And we know that changing lifestyle habits, possibly self-destructive habits, comes with relapse, right? So getting off ultra processed foods is freaking hard. So is quitting drinking. So is quitting smoking. So is quitting doing drugs. And when someone relapses, we don't get shitty about sobriety and go, well, see, you quit drinking and then you just went back to drinking again. So clearly sobriety is a stupid strategy.
Yeah.
Like, no, man, you just dust yourself off, you get back up and you try again. And so I think it should be the same thing with nutrition. And I'm not sure why people get weird about if something was working for you and then you stopped doing it and your health got worse, you should go back to the thing that was working for you.
Yeah.
Assuming that that thing is safe and effective, which we know eating real whole foods, generally lower carb diets are. That's the path.
Yeah. Yeah. Things are challenging. That's just how it is. You know, you can't just float through life and go on easy mode and expect everything to just work out perfectly well. If you want to optimize your health and your fitness, you have to work hard at it. That's just the reality of the way the world works.
Yeah.
So yeah, if somebody is doing really well with a diet and then they go through the holidays and they fall off the bandwagon and they kind of let it get too far, and next thing you know, they've put on 10 pounds of the 20 they've lost, you don't all of a sudden just be like, oh, well, I guess my diet didn't work. No, your diet was working. You just stopped doing the diet. So if you fall apart through the holidays, you go back to your starting point you did before. Maybe I just start with breakfast again, get that all taken care of. Then I do breakfast and lunch, get that all taken care of. Then I start doing the whole thing, and you kind of work your way back up again. So much of the battle people have to struggle with is that they try to go full send right out of the gate. And they go from all processed food to no processed food. And they're like, this is really hard. It's like, well, you don't have to fully jump in full send. You can make small changes day after day and try to ease your way into the whole process.
I think when it comes to nutrition, there's kind of two camps with a bit of a gray area in between. So people that are 20 to maybe 30 pounds overweight, those are just a few habit things that are out of order. We need to tighten up breakfast. We need to maybe not snack at night. A few things that can be tightened up, and usually that problem is pretty easily fixable. Somewhere between that and someone that's 100 or 150 or 200 pounds overweight, we've crossed over into problematic use disorder of ultra-processed foods and maybe also alcohol or other things. You can have a bit of an argument or a debate about whether ultra-processed foods are physically, chemically addictive in the way that drugs and alcohol are, or whether they're just behaviorally addictive in the way that gambling and shopping is. But regardless, there are characteristics of addictive behaviors where it becomes self-destructive. You're giving up things that are important to you to use that substance. You're giving up aspects of your life, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the problem is that so much nutrition advice is given by people that have never been there.
Yeah.
Myself included. I've never been 100 pounds overweight. I've never had a problematic use disorder with ultra processed foods. And, you know, people like to talk about food addiction. Like, well, you need to eat. There is clearly a difference between food and ultra processed food.
Right.
Just like there's clearly a difference between liquids. Some of them are tequila and some of them are water. And one of those is addictive and one of those is clearly not, right? So yes, you have to eat something. Yes, you have to drink something. It doesn't have to be ultra processed food, and it doesn't have to be tequila or vodka, right? So when someone has crossed over into problematic use disorder, into addiction, the cornerstone of addiction treatment is abstinence. It's sobriety. We don't tell a Coke addict to say, just have a little bit of cocaine on the weekends, just in social situations. Or like when someone needs to quit drinking, like you said, like problematic alcohol use disorder, and they're like, I need to stop drinking. If somebody is like, what, are you just never going to have a drink ever again? Come on, live a little. Those people are negative people in the recovering addict's life. And oftentimes those people have to be cut out. But if we just substitute other words for in those sentences, people that need to quit sugar and ultra processed foods, and somebody goes, what, are you just never going to have a cupcake ever again? What, are you just not going to have a piece of cake at my birthday? Come on, live a little. Like, you can't live like that. That's unsustainable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those things that we say to people are horrendous.
Yeah.
Because there are people that, yes, they need to never touch a sugar or ultra processed food again to save their health, in the way that there are some people with alcohol, they need to never have another drink ever again in their life. And you don't think that an alcoholic faced with the thought of never having another drink ever again in their life is full of fear and anxiety and mountains of negative feelings towards giving up something that's been such a big part of their life? And the thought that they won't get to do a champagne toast at their kid's wedding, and they won't get to go have a beer with their buddies, and all of the different things that come along with alcohol. But there are people that we know, and we hopefully support them when they recognize that their ability to control their use of those things just requires their complete abstinence.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with some people with ultra processed foods, that yes, there are people that need to never have another cupcake, Mountain Dew, whatever it is, piece of pie ever again in their life, because one becomes many, and it becomes weeks or months or years off the wagon. And we need to support those people in their desire to achieve sobriety from their addiction in the same way that we do with other addictive, harmful substances.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it when you said the people that are trying to convince us that that's not necessary, the people that have never dealt with it themselves. And so for the average person to give up, any kind of junk food forever, it just seems like I wouldn't want to do it myself. But I've never been in that situation where it's life-threatening, Mm-hmm. And what's also funny is that there's plenty of people out there that aren't at a point where it's become hazardous to their health, but they've still given up all that kind of stuff. There's some super health nuts out there that just want to say absolutely shredded. And they look like crazy shredded freaks of nature. And you say like, well, how often do you eat donuts? And they're like, oh, I haven't had a donut in 10 years. And they've completely given up that stuff, not because it's killing them, but because they know that to maintain their look or their feelings or whatever, they have to eat a certain way. So for them, it's not a big deal. And we'll look at those people and be like, wow, that's crazy. I could never do that, but good for you. It's certainly paying off. Why wouldn't we respect somebody who's trying to make a change in their life and trying to turn it around and support them through that,
Yeah, it's funny you say that. This other seminar staff and I, when we were teaching the level 2 in Vancouver, we're having this exact conversation about how some people have an extreme emotional attachment to certain foods, or maybe call it a dependence on certain foods, where the concept of never eating another cupcake ever in their life just seems impossible, insurmountable. Whereas I couldn't tell you the last time I ever ate a cupcake. And Jason was like, me neither. He couldn't even tell you. Years.
Yeah.
And I don't think about it. It's just not a thing. I just don't have any emotional attachment to that food. I have no desire to keep it in my life. I don't seek it out. I don't miss it. It's just not a thing. In the same way that I don't think about smoking. It just doesn't cross my radar. I don't want to smoke. I don't need to smoke. It's not like every time I walk in the gas station, I'm like, oh, there's the cigarettes. No, it just doesn't enter my world. It just doesn't enter my reality. Same thing with French fries. I couldn't tell you the last time I ate French fries. I know how bad they are. I just don't care that much about them. To eat fries in a restaurant, years. Couldn't even tell you how long it's been. There's other things where, what have I indulged in the last year? Like really good quality ice cream, a really good quality cheesecake, maybe a really good quality cinnamon bun. There's a few things where I'm like, yeah, I like those things. But also there's really no foods where if I could never eat that thing again, where it would be the end of the world to me. Mm-hmm. Like junk food wise.
Yeah.
I just don't have an extreme emotional attachment or dependence on those things.
And the way you find out if you have those attachments is you just start eating really, really clean. Like when we did the grit grind a couple of years back, it was interesting to see the stuff that I was like, oh, I actually kind of miss having that. And you can start to self-assess and be like, okay, it turns out I'm a little bit more dependent on this than I realized. And then you can decide for yourself, is it better if I just cut these things out altogether, or is it better if I plan to have them once in a while? I like eggnog, but by no means is it something I'm like, oh, I can't wait till Christmas. I can't wait till eggnog season. I enjoy it for a little bit and then I'm over it and I don't want it for another year.
And that's the space between.
Yeah.
We're looping back to that. Is like, okay, well, if there are things that you want to keep in your life and you can do that, you can moderate your intake in a way that you can have it with enough space in between every year, every 6 months, that kind of thing. And it doesn't send you off on a binge or a relapse back into absolutely atrocious metabolic health or anything like that, then that's probably okay for you to fit into your life. And there are abstainers and there are moderators. Some people, why can they have a couple of alcoholic drinks once in a while and it absolutely doesn't affect their life? And other people, if they have a couple of drinks, they'll be off on a complete bender for weeks or maybe years on end. Why is it like that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And people will talk about genetics or socioeconomic factors or trauma or all these kinds of things. I don't know why, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
And so just like we need to support people that absolutely have to abstain, we need to support that and respect that with drugs and alcohol and cigarettes. just the same with nutrition.
Yeah.
And we need to set people with problematic use disorder up for success too, because diet plans, nutritionists will tell people with problematic use disorder, well, you just need to have a little bit.
Yeah.
All things in moderation. And actually it would be unhealthy and it would be an eating disorder for you to consider abstinence from those things. You're like, what?
Yeah.
What are we doing? We're just setting people up for failure. It's like somebody checks into rehab and the counselor is like, so you just need to have 2 glasses of wine a day, you know,
just a little bit.
Just a little bit. You get to have 3 margaritas on the weekend.
Yeah.
Like what? That sounds crazy when you think of it in the other context.
I think people just need to be self-aware. They need to know themselves and be honest with themselves and be able to say, I can't just have one, or I can't just have a little bit, or I can't do it just once a week. It's all or nothing. And if that's how it is, you need to be honest with yourself and honest with the people around you. And there should be nothing wrong with admitting, I have a problem with this and I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm ready to make a change. And if people around you aren't supportive of that, you need to reconsider the people around you.
Yeah. And yeah, you need to not give any time or consideration to a person, regardless of their role in your life or their professional credentials, that's trying to talk you out of abstinence if you know abstinence is the way for you from those things.
I remember we got into a discussion with a lady once and she was basically saying there's no such thing as bad foods. And you were like, I'm going to push back on that. And it was a little bit of not a heated debate, but it was definitely like you were standing up for what you believe in. And she was trying to argue. And at one point she was talking about, it's just like, how can you tell somebody they can never eat that again? And I was like, have you ever been 100 pounds overweight? She's like, well, no. I'm like, well, then your story is different than the person who's 100 pounds overweight. You can't try to even imagine what they're going through and the difficulties they have. Just because you can get away with eating bread every day doesn't mean the person that's trying to lose 100 pounds can. Those are 2 different stories.
2 different things. I'm just over it with people that parrot these things that they've heard and never gave any consideration to it. Shit like, well, there are no bad foods. Yes, there are. Strawberry milkshake flavored Frosted Flakes are a bad food.
That's not even a food.
That's not even a food. And this is exactly what I said to that lady. I remember the conversation you're talking about. It was at the Western Canadian Affiliate Summit earlier in the year. And I was like, the one concession I'll make is that if we agree that many things out there right now are not actually food.
Yeah.
Sure, there are no bad foods. But if you go in the grocery store, 75% of what's in there is not food. Then you'll get me to agree with what you're saying. If we can agree, the neutral peace treaty here is that strawberry milkshake flavored Frosted Flakes are not food. There's some other bullshit. Yeah. Then fine. There are no bad foods as long as we are on the same page about what food actually is. It's like saying there are no bad liquids. Yes, there are. Just because you need liquid to live, you need water to live, but you don't need alcohol. There are bad liquids. Gasoline would be a bad liquid. Or you go, well, you need to breathe air, so there is no bad air. Yes, there is. Cigarette smoke, car exhaust, there is bad air, right? So same thing with food. I'm just over it with people saying this like absolute nonsense, or that, any plan that works on a cornerstone of abstention sobriety from ultra processed foods is unsustainable. It's like, it's hard. Yes, people that need to quit smoking, quit drinking, quit eating junk food. But the fact that it's hard doesn't mean we back away from it being the right thing.
Yeah. Some of the best things that happen come from doing hard things. You just have to be willing to do hard things.
The fact that quitting smoking is hard to do and people tend to relapse multiple times doesn't mean we back away from quitting smoking being the right thing to do.
Right. Same
thing with drinking. Just because quitting drinking is hard, and it's hard. The average person before they achieve full sobriety relapses like 12 times.
And 80+% of people never get off of it.
Yeah.
That try,
Yeah. But that doesn't mean we back away from the thing you need to do to correct the problem is quit drinking, quit drugs, quit smoking, quit ultra processed foods. Are there people out there that can handle a little bit of alcohol, that can have a few cigarettes once in a while, can have a few Krispy Kremes once a year, and it doesn't seem to put them into the throes of addiction-like behavior? For sure. And kudos to those people. But those people are different than the people that have crossed over into problematic use disorder.
Absolutely. So through the holidays, make some good choices. Mm-hmm. Know yourself. Just be honest with yourself. Be honest with your family. Like, it's not that you can't have any fun or whatever. You just got to be like, is this worth it? Mm-hmm. And then just give yourself those times and stick with it so that you're not full send one direction and then starting from scratch again when you come out of it. Mm-hmm. Diets are supposed to be consistent, just like exercise programs. You can't go on a diet for 6 weeks and then go off of it and expect to maintain what you've you've earned through that 6 weeks. So,
and you
smart.
Keep up with the consistency of your healthy lifestyle. So you eat normally most of the time.
Yeah.
The space between those times that are off the wagon. And if you relapse and you fall off the wagon, you get yourself back up, you dust yourself off, and you get back on, and you get back on the habits and the lifestyle that you know support the better, happier, more capable, more involved, living and thriving kind of future that you want for yourself and your family and the people in your sphere that are important to you.
Yeah.
So if you fall off the wagon, just dust yourself off and get right back on.
We always go to Maui for Christmas. That's our tradition. And we fall off the wagon a little bit. That's just part of it. We go out for dinners, which we never go out for dinner anywhere. It's too expensive now. And it's just, you just never know what you're getting. We rarely do. But when we're in Maui, we tend to, but we do what we can to minimize the damage. The rest of the time, we still try to eat the right way. We say we're actually probably more active in Maui than we are here. We walk around a ton. We'll go for 2 5K walks every day. We'll go on all these long hikes. We'll work out.
CrossFit almost every day.
Yeah, we go in the ocean. We just stay busy.
Yeah, exactly like we said. That's the strategy we use. Plan for the things that are important to us. Manage the space between. Keep up with the lifestyle of fitness and otherwise sleeping and time outside and social connections and all that stuff. And then we don't arrive at January with a whole lot of work to do to get out of a hole.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. All right, there you have it, guys.
All right, December's coming up. We're going to make it through. We're going to have fun, and we're going to come out just as strong on the other side.
Yes. Minimize the damage through the holidays. Let's just do it consistently.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
See you later.
See you in the next one.